Hey there, in this video we are going to talk about collecting, and by collecting we mean when it's time to ask your clients for money because it's time to pay. Now, requesting payment from your clients can be a little uncomfortable. And to be honest, most sales guys, that's where they end up having a weakness, is that they just aren't comfortable asking their client to pay when it's time to pay. So in this video, we are going to go over the steps as to where this company asks for payment, and we're going to go over some ways to ask for it, some ways to not ask for it, and hopefully you will gain some confidence after watching this video. So that way, when it does come time to ask for payment, you are far more effective. Before we get into everything, I would like you to realize that asking for payment is kind of like a salesman trying to shoot a moving target. And the ways to keep this target moving the smallest amount is by setting expectations, which we will cover in a little bit. But most importantly, just remember that especially when you are relying on commissions, that asking for money is asking for your money. This is money that you are looking to collect so that way you get paid. So this is your money that you're going after. And once you train yourself to ask for money, then you will be able to get those commissions in a much timely manner. Now, first off, there are 3 ways that this company accepts payments. And that is by writing a check, by accepting a credit card, but there is a 3% fee if people pay with a credit card. If you do have a customer who's looking to pay with a credit card and didn't realize there was a 3% fee, offer to save them that 3% and swing by their property to pick up a check. Or by a bank transfer if they provide their bank information and have that payment transferred to the company's bank. So here are some tips when you go to request payment from your client. First off, you want to establish expectations. So you need to tell them this is when first payment is due, this is when last payment is due, and these are the repercussions if that doesn't happen. Always make sure that is set up in front of them. Expectations are key, so that way they know what's at risk, what's at stake for them if they aren't able to make those payments. Next, be polite and concise. You always want to be polite with your client anyways, but when you're talking about money, be very concise. Try not to use a lot of words. Be very straight with them as to this is when payment is due, and when payment does come due, say, hey, payment is now due. How would you like me to collect that? The next tip is, if somebody is late on their payment, be empathetic, but be firm. Sometimes people have a psychology of writing a check for a large amount of money. It just does something to them. And sometimes it's just not easy. So be empathetic that spending that much money, writing a check for that much money can cause some mental distress for them, but be firm that this is what we agreed to. This is now due. Now in Job Nimbus, the company has set up automations to remind people when payments are due. But it's very important to realize, just like it is for sales calls and follow-ups, don't rely solely on those Job Nimbus automations. You want to have the personal touch because you're a salesman, and that comes to collecting money as well. So if money is due, even though they've received those automations, make sure you reach out to them and let them know, hey, this is due. Would you like me to swing by and pick up a check? How would you like to pay for them? And if a payment happens to be overdue because somebody hasn't made it based on the expectations that you set before, make sure you set a new deadline as to, okay, I understand the situation. This is when I'm going to expect payment. Just make sure when you set that new deadline, note Nimbus so that way the people who operate the administrative side of the company can know what you discussed with that client, so that way they can make accommodations as well. So there are 3 main situations that you would sign up a client to have their roof done. And those are going to be a cash or retail contract, a contract from an insurance claim, or it's a sale property and we're doing the roof so that way the sale can go through and we are going to get paid through escrow. Right now, we're going to look at what's involved with a cash contract. Payments for a cash contract and an insurance contract are very similar, but they differ just a little bit. So let's go over that right now. In a cash contract, there's 2 payments involved. The first payment is due when the materials are delivered to the property. In a cash contract, the second payment is due when the job is completed. However, 30 days after the completion, if they haven't paid by then, that's when interest will start to accrue on their account. Again, it's important to relay to the client that you are trying to save them interest fees by making sure that profile, that account has been closed and they have made that second payment in a timely manner. The next situation is paying for the re-roof through an insurance claim, and we all know how convoluted that can get at times. When a client first gets their initial insurance paperwork from a claim, the breakdown of how they are paid is actually designed to confuse them. Insurance companies are not in the business of just handing out money. That's why they make insurance claim paperwork not easy to read for the average homeowner. That's where we step in to help them. However, the payments to us are much the same as a cash contract, but the amounts can be a little different. In a cash contract, the first payment and the second payment are split right down the middle. With an insurance claim in play, the first payment is actually going to be the total ACV for the scope of work that the client has hired us to do. And that payment is also due when materials are delivered to the job site. The final payment is a little different because there might be back-end supplements that we have to go back to the insurance company to have them adjust the claim, release depreciation, and release the supplements that we've requested. So in an insurance claim, the second payment is due after completion plus 30 days. So 30 days after completion, that is when the office has submitted those supplements, got them approved, verified that the depreciation has been released, and it should be on the way to the homeowner within 7 to 10 days after getting that confirmation. So completion plus 30 days is more than enough time for the homeowner to receive their final funds and for you to go and collect that money. For a sale property, we are getting paid out of escrow, and that means that the title company who is managing the closing of the sale is going to hold back funds from either the seller or the buyer, however they work it out, and the contractor doesn't get paid until the work is completed and that has been verified. So in those situations, there is no first payment. The only payment that comes is from the title company, and it actually comes to us after the work is completed. Now in those situations, once the work is completed, the payment is due in full. And that will probably require you as the salesman to visit the title company, contact them, say work is completed, everybody's happy. When can we swing by and pick up a check for the work we've done, and what day will that be available? Now, like I said before, writing checks this big that are involved in roofing can cause a client to have some sort of mental distress, whether they realize it or not. So sometimes when it comes to ask for money, you'll start to get excuses. So in this next portion, we're going to kind of examine the kind of excuses or the kind of situations that you run into when it comes to ask for money, especially when it comes to asking for the final payment. Sometimes when you start to get excuses and you make a personal visit to the property to collect a payment, the easiest excuse you'll get is, whoops, I forgot. Hey, how's it going? Hey, how's it going? Okay, let me write you a check. Why don't you come on in? So this is what we call the whoops here. That's when you show up, they say, whoops, I forgot, let me write you a check. Usually the next excuse that you run into is the postpone. Oh, I forgot to pay that. I'm not ready to make that payment today. Can you come back at a later date? I'm actually going to be in your area on Friday. Would that be a better time to come by and pick up that check? If that happens to you, set a new deadline like we said before. Okay, I understand. I will be back on Friday. And is 2 o'clock okay? Is 3 o'clock okay? I really need to get this account closed for you. Always trying to angle it that you're trying to do them a favor. Say, hey, I'm trying to avoid interest fees here, so if we can get this paid up this week, that would be fantastic. So is 2 o'clock on Friday okay? That's a perfect example. Now, if you're collecting the final payment on an insurance claim, you might run into a situation that I like to call the reconcile. Hey, how's it going? I was wondering if you had the final payment that I could collect from you. I gave you everything the insurance company gave me. Well, I have your paperwork right here. Can we maybe just sit down and go over it, see if the insurance company missed a payment to you or something? Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and go over it. The reconcile is where the homeowner still isn't sure on the final numbers, especially if there's been supplements involved. They may have already given you all the payments they've received, but don't realize they have others coming. What I do to avoid that situation at the door is I like to print off the version that we have of their final paperwork and have it with me, so that way we can go in and actually discuss it and see if they actually haven't received that payment or if the insurance company hasn't released it. We can figure out that situation quite easily. And even if the insurance company hasn't released all the money they need, At least you had a moment to sit down with them, reconcile their paperwork, and understand what payments they are supposed to get or possibly have already gotten and haven't gotten to us. Another situation that you might run into is what I call the standoff, and that's where somebody feels that they've paid enough to where they should be paid in full, but they're not. And again, you might have to reconcile a little bit as to what payments they made and what their invoice is. Hey, I was wondering if you had the final payment that I could collect from you. How do I possibly owe you money? Whoa, I'm sorry. I was told that you have a final payment to make. Can we go over your invoice? I have it right here. See if a mistake was made maybe, or if we need to settle up. If you think you might be walking into a standoff situation, bring a copy of their invoice so that way you two can go over it together and verify the payments that they've made. The last most popular situation you might find yourself in, and it's the worst one that you can be in, is what I call the stonewall. Hey, what do you want? Hi, I was swinging by to see if I could collect that final payment from you. I'm not giving you a dime. Okay, I'll let the office know. Thank you. The stonewall comes from a situation where the customer is just not happy with what we've done, but we've met what we were supposed to do on the contract, and it is time for them to pay. So even though they're not happy, they're not going to leave a 5-star review, but they still owe us thousands of dollars. This is what the stonewall is. And sometimes they'll just say, I don't care what you say. I'm not giving you another dime. I'm not happy. If you run into that situation, just tell them, I'll let the office know. Go back, note job Nimbus, and moving forward, any other communication to try and collect from that client should be done with some sort of digital or paper trail. Whether it's by email or using the engage feature in Job Nimbus, make sure there's some sort of record of any further communication in trying to collect that payment. The reason for that is if the situation goes even worse and gets in front of a judge, the company needs to have some sort of record as to what was said between both parties. In the last part of this video, we are going to talk about how not to ask for money. First and foremost, don't be rude. Rudeness doesn't get anybody anything. Even if you're 100% sure that you are right in the situation, don't be rude. Next, don't make threats or accusations. Don't tell them, hey, you're getting interest payments. Always tell them, I'm trying to avoid you getting interest payments. Don't be accusatory saying, hey, we agreed you're going to pay this time, this day. Remember, in all situations, we still want these clients to refer us to other people and possibly leave a 5-star review. The next tip for how not to ask for money is don't be vague in your requests. Always be concise. Always be straight with the client. Always tell them, hey, just like we discussed, this payment is now due. How would you like to make that payment? And always offer to swing by and pick up a check. The last tip I can give you is try not to be informal. A lot of the times when we are salespeople and we get to know the client, we start to become friends with the client and we start to speak with them informally. But informal is not a way to speak to somebody when it comes to asking for money. When it's time to ask for money, always be formal. The reason for this is because it sends a message that, okay, we had our fun, now it's time for business, and you actually owe us money, and it's my responsibility to make sure this account gets closed. So hopefully this video has helped you gain a little confidence, understanding how to ask for money and the importance of asking for money. I've always said it's everybody in the company's responsibility to collect money. However, you're the one on commission, you're the one waiting to get paid. So it falls heavier on your shoulders to go get that payment. Remember, a salesman should be operating as a business, and that business needs to collect money, and that is part of being a salesman. So if somebody owes the company money, owes money from a job that you sold, go get that money, because why? That money is yours too. And as always, if you're having any troubles collecting money from any job, reach out to your sales coach for additional tips or for him or her to actually step in and help out.